If you are watching this right now, pause for just 1 second and hit the subscribe button because what you are about to hear is one of the most unbelievable stories to ever shake the entire drama world. This is the kind of secret that destroys friendships, rewrites futures, and exposes everything hidden behind the perfect smiles you see on screen. And trust me, you do not want to miss the ending of this story because it is nothing close to what anyone expected. Now let us begin. Shen Yue sat alone in her room that evening, the winter air pushing softly against her curtains as she replayed the same message on her phone over and over again. Miles Wei had confessed something to her hours before, something he never had the courage to say out loud in all the years they had worked together. His voice had trembled when he said it. He admitted that he had been in love with her for a very long time. Shen Yue did not know what to do. Her heart was confused and heavy, and her hands had not stopped shaking since she left the studio set. Because the truth she refused to say out loud was simple. She felt something too. But her world was not empty. Dylan Wang was in the picture. Dylan had always been close to her in a way that nobody could explain. People saw the chemistry on screen, but what they did not see was the quiet bond they carried off screen. A bond built through late-night rehearsals, shared secrets, and moments they never talked about again. So Shen Yue kept the confession locked inside her heart and tried to breathe. Meanwhile, far across the city, Dylan was standing outside the production building with his jacket pulled over his shoulders as he waited for someone. He kept checking his phone every few seconds and his expression grew colder with each minute that passed. He had sensed something was wrong with Shen Yue earlier that day. She seemed too distant and too lost in her head. When Miles approached the same building from the opposite side, Dylan saw him first. The way Miles walked seemed different, almost too determined, as if he was carrying a secret too heavy to hide. Dylan did not understand it. Not yet. But he felt something shifting in the air. And that shift became reality the moment Shen Yue arrived. She stepped out of a car, her eyes red and tired, her face pale as if she had cried and tried to scrub the evidence away. Dylan moved toward her, but before he could speak, Miles moved faster, catching her name softly on his breath. Shen Yue. She froze. Dylan stopped walking. The silence that followed was the kind that could break glass. Miles looked right into her eyes, ignoring the presence of the man who had always been by her side. His expression was open and unguarded. He was not hiding anything anymore. I meant every word I said earlier. I do not want to pretend anymore. Shen Yue turned her face away, her tears threatening to fall again. She whispered that she needed time, but Miles took a small step closer. I have loved you for years. Even when you had no idea. Even when you were looking at someone else. Someone else. The words hit Dylan like a strike to the heart. He felt his breath leave him completely. He looked at Shen Yue, expecting her to deny it, to laugh it off, to say it was all a misunderstanding. But she did not say anything. She did not move. She did not defend him. That silence was louder than any confession. Dylan walked forward slowly, his steps heavy and controlled as he faced them both. His voice was low and steady, but underneath it was a storm he had kept hidden for too long. What is going on? Shen Yue tried to speak, but Miles stepped between them slightly, as if he was ready to protect her from something she was not even fighting. Dylan. I confessed to her. And she is not rejecting me. Shen Yue gasped at his directness, but Miles did not take his eyes off Dylan. For the first time in years, the truth was no longer something that could be hidden. Dylan stared at Shen Yue long enough to see everything in her eyes. The confusion. The fear. The memories. The feelings she was too scared to acknowledge. So it is true. You feel something for him. Shen Yue broke. Her body trembled as she whispered, a voice cracked from emotion. I do not know. I do not know what I feel. I just know everything feels wrong right now. But Dylan heard only one thing. The uncertainty. And it tore him silently. He stepped back, his heartbeat ringing in his ears as a painful realization settled inside him. She had never belonged to him the way he believed. Not fully. Not completely. He felt Miles watching him with a mixture of guilt and determination. Dylan lifted his head and met his gaze with a calmness that frightened everyone. If you love her, then fight for her. But do not hurt her. Because if you do, I will not forgive you. Ever. Miles held his stare, not backing down. I will protect her. I promise. Shen Yue covered her face, overwhelmed by the tension, by the emotion, by the reality of two men standing in front of her, both willing to lose everything for her. Dylan then turned back to her with a softness that broke her heart more than any argument could. Just choose what makes your heart breathe again. Even if that choice is not me. Shen Yue began crying silently, her tears falling down her hands as she whispered his name. But Dylan did not stop walking. He left without turning back. And that single moment changed everything. From that day forward, rumors began spreading across every corner of the industry. People claimed they saw Shen Yue and Miles together late at night. Others said they saw Dylan acting colder on set, as if something inside him had cracked. But no rumor captured the truth. The truth was that Shen Yue did care for Miles, but she also cared deeply for Dylan. And sometimes the heart can love two stories at the same time while belonging to none of them completely. Weeks later, something unexpected happened. A photo leaked. Shen Yue and Miles sitting close in a quiet cafe, her head lowered, his hand reaching across the table to comfort her. The internet exploded. Fans argued. Comment sections burned with theories. Everyone believed a new couple was about to rise. But what they did not know was that the photo was taken on the day Shen Yue decided to confront her heart once and for all. She met Miles to tell him something she had been hiding. After hours of silence and tears, she finally said it. I am not ready. I care about you, but I cannot be with you. Not yet. Not like this. Not when part of me is still tied to someone else. Miles closed his eyes, absorbing the pain quietly. He did not argue. He did not beg. He simply nodded. I will wait. Even if it takes forever. But Shen Yue shook her head. Do not wait for me. Live. Work. Grow. I need to find myself again. It was the most painful decision she had ever made. Meanwhile, Dylan heard everything through someone who had been at the cafe. He froze for minutes, unable to move as the truth hit him hard. She did not choose him. She did not choose Miles. She chose herself. And somehow that hurt him even more. But later that night, he sat alone under the soft glow of the city and whispered something to himself. If she ever comes back, I will be here. The story ends not with a final decision, but with three hearts trying to heal in their own way. Three futures waiting to collide again. Three lives forever changed by a single confession. The entire set froze in silence after Dylan stormed out. The air was heavy and tense as everyone whispered behind their scripts. The truth was out. The secret romance that Shen Yue and Miles Wei hid so carefully had finally stripped itself bare under the bright studio lights. No one expected Dylan to react the way he did, and no one expected what would happen next. Shen Yue stood alone in the hallway, her hands trembling as she pressed her back against the cold wall. She could still hear the echo of Dylan whispering that final line in part 1. He said he thought she would never betray him. He said he only needed honesty. But honesty arrived too late. She closed her eyes as tears gathered. The world felt too heavy. Every step she took felt like she was walking through a storm that refused to calm down. She whispered to herself over and over that she never wanted to hurt anyone. But the heart never makes choices at the right time. It always chooses moments that break everything. Then she heard footsteps behind her. Slow and hesitant. She did not have to turn around to know it was Miles Wei. He stood there quietly studying her. His chest rose and fell with guilt. His mind replayed the moment Dylan walked in on them. The way Dylan's voice cracked, the way his eyes darkened with hurt that could not be hidden. Miles had always been calm, always controlled, but now he felt something unfamiliar rising inside him. Something close to fear. Shen Yue wiped her tears, but they kept falling slowly down her cheeks. She whispered that she never wanted to destroy the friendship between them. She never wanted two people she cared about to go to war because of emotions they tried so hard to bury. Miles stepped closer, gently placing his jacket around her shoulders. He told her that no matter what happened he would take responsibility. He would face the consequences. He would not let her carry this alone. She stared at him, stunned by the steadiness in his voice. She knew he meant every word. She also knew that standing beside him right now would only pour fuel on a burning fire. Suddenly the door at the far end of the hallway slammed open. Dylan stood there, eyes red, slightly swollen, as if he had been fighting emotions he could no longer contain. The hallway froze in silence, the way storms pause before thunder strikes. Dylan looked at Miles first. There was no anger in his eyes now. Only exhaustion. A kind of heartbreak that has already burned itself out. Then he turned to Shen Yue, and for a moment something inside her shattered. He walked forward slowly, stopping just a few steps away from them. His voice was calm but too steady, too forced. He asked them if it was real. If everything he walked in on was true. If the feelings they denied for months were actually living inside them all along. Shen Yue could not speak. Her lips trembled. Her throat tightened. Miles finally stepped forward, saying yes. It was the truth they had been afraid to face. The truth they thought they could control. The truth that refused to stay hidden. Dylan closed his eyes. And for the first time that day he genuinely smiled. A small, tired, broken smile that carried years of unspoken emotions. He said he already knew. He had seen the way Shen Yue looked at Miles. He had seen the way Miles quietly protected her even when no one else noticed. He said he just never wanted to admit it. Because admitting it meant letting go. He finally raised his head and told them that love can never be forced. Not by pressure, not by promises, not by past memories. It only grows where it wants to grow. And if their hearts chose each other, then he would step aside. Shen Yue broke completely at those words. She tried to reach for him, but he stepped back gently, saying she did not have to apologize. That her happiness mattered. That losing her as a partner was painful, but losing her as a friend would destroy him completely. Miles stood there stunned. He had never seen Dylan speak with so much sincerity, so much emotional clarity. It was the moment everyone feared, yet the moment that brought the deepest truth to light. Dylan then walked past them quietly. He told them to talk things through. But what none of them knew was that he walked straight to the rooftop to finally breathe after holding his emotions hostage for so long. Shen Yue raced after him. She reached the rooftop to find him standing near the edge, staring at the sky. He did not turn when she approached. He simply spoke, saying he needed time to heal. He needed space to rebuild the pieces that their silence had broken. But then he said something she never expected. He told her he forgave her. Not because it was easy, but because carrying the pain would only weigh him down. He forgave Miles too. Because love triangles are not wars. They are wounds that eventually stop hurting. Shen Yue collapsed to her knees, crying as the wind wrapped around her. She whispered that she never meant to break his heart. Dylan smiled softly, telling her that hearts break only because they once cared too deeply. That is not something she should regret. When she returned downstairs, Miles rushed to her, pulling her into a gentle embrace. For the first time she let herself feel the warmth she had been denying. The comfort she had been running from. The connection she had always buried under fear. And that night something changed. Not just between Shen Yue and Miles. But between all three of them. Dylan went home lighter. Shen Yue finally breathed without guilt. Miles finally held the hand he had been waiting for. The love story that had been hiding in shadows finally stepped into the light. Not perfect. Not painless. But real. And real was enough.